Hey guys, what's up? It's Macho MMA with another predictions video. Today I'll be looking at the entire UFC 261 card. This card is absolutely stacked start to finish, top to bottom. We get 3 title fights and every matchup is very interesting. I won't be covering the prelims, but man, even that is stacked with some good ones and are worth a watch. Alright, let's get right into it. To open up the card, we have a light heavyweight clash between the veteran Anthony Lionheart Smith and the up-and-coming Jimmy the Brute Crute. Lionheart is coming off a first round submission win against Devin Clark, while the Brute is coming off a first round knockout of Modestas Bukauskas. Anthony Smith has been a staple of the light heavyweight division for a while now. He has fought the old guard and is fighting the young now, but he has struggled. He's a powerful striker who has decent grappling. When his striking is on point, he puts out a great variety of punches led by his jab. When he is feigning and timing his jab, the rest just comes together nicely. His offensive wrestling is good enough to take down the less experienced, but not good enough to take down the solid wrestlers. His defensive wrestling is pretty much the same. When he does get taken down, he finds himself stuck there against some good guys. Crute is very well rounded. He is also a powerful striker who uses his movement and bounce to come in and out to land his shots on his opponents. His ground game is also very good. He uses great chain wrestling to control and keep his opponents down and in vulnerable positions. His submission game is solid. He has shown he can hit certain things anywhere. The one thing I think is a big issue for him is that he sometimes expends huge amounts of energy too soon and seems to slow down when he does. To win, Smith must keep range and use his jab to keep Crute at the end of his punches and use his combinations to hurt Jimmy. Crute's path to victory is to use his footwork to get into range and land the big shots on Smith while mixing in the wrestling, as I do think if he gets him down, he'll be able to hold him there. I think Crute is better all around and will win in the striking and wrestling exchanges. The Brute moves up by dispatching the veteran Lionheart. Crute by TKO. Chris, the All-American Weidman, faces off against Uriah Primetime Hall. The All-American is coming off a decision win over Amari Akhmedov, while Primetime is coming off a knockout finish of Anderson Silva. This is actually the second time they are facing each other. They faced off once before when they were both very green, before either guy would get into the UFC, and it was Weidman that came out victorious. Since then, we have seen both guys level up and rise to the top of the middleweight division. Now both guys have seen some hits and faced some lows, but are looking to take newfound momentum and stay in the title hunt. Hall is a powerful striker who has good power. He has some fancy kicks. He is really patient on the feet and still has some insane speed. I do think Hall has the advantage on the feet as he is just better overall. He throws the better kicks, the quicker punches. I don't think he'll be as hesitant as he was in the Silva fight just because I don't think he's afraid of Chris's striking. He has some poses striking early with his jab, and he will have to stop plenty of takedowns. Weidman is a wrestler who has slowly built up his striking. His striking has improved, but it never really looks smooth, and I don't think it'll be good enough to outstrike Hall. I do think he needs to use his striking to set up his wrestling. He has some good single legs, but has trouble taking someone down the longer he has a hold of the leg. He can't really chain it all together at a high level. I think this matchup relies heavily on Hall's ability to stuff the takedown. If he can't, Weidman will look for it every time and dominate Hall from the top and drop some ground and pound. If Hall succeeds in stopping the takedowns, he will pick Chris apart on the feet. This is a close matchup, but I think Hall will be cautious enough and skilled enough to stop the takedowns. Hall picks apart the All-American in prime time. Hall by decision. In the first title fight of the night, Bullet Valentina Shevchenko defends her title against Jessica Andrade. Shevchenko is coming off a successful defense against Jennifer Maia, while Andrade is coming off a TKO win over Katlyn Chookagian after moving up a weight division. Andrade was a former champion who won and lost her title to the fighters in the co-main event. She has crazy strength. She was known for her slams and actually won the strawweight belt by slamming Rose on her head. I initially thought that her strength would not translate to this new bigger division, but she proved me wrong in her fight against Chookagian. She looked just as strong and seemed to control her very well. She has power in her hands and will look to land some heavy shots. She tends to wing her punches and doesn't really throw her punches straight down the middle. If she can use her head movement to enter into range, she can begin to look for something big and maybe even a takedown. She has to walk Valentina down and counter her punches to get into range and land meaningful shots. Shevchenko is just a great overall fighter. Every aspect of her striking is great. Her punches are crisp and very efficient. Her kicks are the same. She moves her head well, and the biggest thing for her is her footwork. She's always staying bouncy, and her ability to manage range is honestly insane. Honestly, the best I've ever seen. We have seen how great her stand-up is that we forget that her clinch and ground game are more than solid. She can defend the takedown pretty well and is always on the offensive, using sneaky trips to make her opponents pay when they try it. When she gets people down, they stay there. Her ability to manage range is going to make it a nightmare for Jessica to close the distance. She's going to stay on the outside and let Andrade run into her counters, and I believe she'll also look for takedowns to put exclamation marks on the rounds. I think Andrade can cause an issue if she lands something, but I don't think she has the skills to get close and land the shots that she needs. She will look to take down and control Valentina, but I don't think her raw power will be enough, and she doesn't have the technique to get her down. I think this fight will go like Andrade's second fight against Rose, except I think Valentina has the power and the technique to finish her. The Bullet claims another contender in Andrade, Shevchenko by TKO. In the co-main event, Magnum Zhang Weili defends her belt for the second time against former champion Thug Rose Namajunas. Weili's coming off a Fight of the Year title defense against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, while Rose is coming off a decision win over Jessica Andrade. This is honestly the closest matchup on the card in my opinion. Both fighters are so good, and I think this will be like Joanna Weili, but with a little less action, as Rose doesn't take as many risks as Joanna, but that still isn't a bad thing. It'll be hard to live up to that fight, but will be good if it even is half of what that fight was. Thug Rose is a pretty well-rounded striker. Her stand-up is strong. She has crisp boxing. She really uses her length to her fullest. She keeps the strikes very long without overextending herself. She uses kicks down the middle to maintain distance. Her footwork is really good. She's always balanced and uses her feet to escape in and out and side to side to exit after her combinations. She cuts her angles really well when throwing. Her lead hand is very active with feints to confuse her opponents. The only knock on her striking is she seems to lack real power, where her opponents have tended to walk her down. She really needs to stay light and use her footwork to land significant strikes then get out of range. She's really slick on the ground. She can slip in some submissions due to her lankiness, and she has shown that she can win positions on the ground. If this fight ends up on the ground, I do think Rose holds the advantage there. Weili will be the smaller fighter, but will be packing the bigger punch. She also doesn't rely on just one big shot. She throws great combinations and will win the long exchanges when they trade. Her hands are so fast and her combos are tight. She will be the one walking Rose down the whole fight. She slips well, and that'll be her way to enter. She also has some nice pulls where she'll either lean back or step back and then tee off on her counters. Her footwork is also super slick. Her biggest issue is her defense. Sometimes she just drops her hands and leaves herself to get hit between the combinations. She's a strong wrestler and has a solid jiu-jitsu game. I do think if it hits the ground, she will be at the disadvantage. I do also think she has the better cardio. She'll be able to chase Rose for all 5 rounds. The longer the fight goes, the more the fight will start to lean to Weili. I think she'll be able to counter and get into Rose's space and land the more powerful shots. She has to make sure her defense is tight because Rose is very accurate and could clip her in her exchanges. Magnum packs too much of a kick for Thug Rose and defends once again. Weili by decision. In the main event, Kamaru the Nigerian Nightmare Usman once again defends his welterweight strap against Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. Usman is coming off a successful defense against Gilbert Burns, while Masvidal's last fight was a decision loss against Usman in their first encounter. Masvidal has the potential to become the star of the UFC with the win here. He amounted so much popularity during his latest run. He knocked out Darren Till in brutal fashion, but the highlight of that night was his backstage altercation with Leon Edwards, where he had people talking about a 3-piece and a soda till this day. Then he would have one of the most viral knockouts ever when he dispatched Ben Askren in just 5 seconds with a flying knee. He had made all the right moves so far and continued when he matched up against Nate Diaz, one of the biggest stars in the UFC, and the doctor had to stop it in his favor. He would then finally get his title shot in the most unideal but ideal conditions on 6 days' notice. It was a win-win scenario for Gamebred. He lost by decision, but his star would not dim at all, as many believe with the full camp the fight would have turned out differently. He now has the potential on the full camp to become welterweight champion. If he does, he will cement himself as the biggest star in the company behind Conor McGregor, because the belt is all that he's missing. It's like Thanos with the Infinity Stones, and the belt is the last one before he snaps us all away. Masvidal is a striker through and through. He has decent power, but I think his knockouts come from his speed. He has some great hand speed. In their first fight, he was the much better striker. His combinations were smoother and he looked much more natural with his punches. They come so fast and he throws them with a lot of violent intent. He does his iconic flurry often and it tends to surprise a lot of his opponents. His takedown defense, in my opinion, is as best as it's going to be. It's solid enough to stop takedowns when they shoot on him, but not enough to break away. In their first matchup, he did a good job of not getting taken down as often as everyone thought he would, but he did get pushed against the fence and couldn't get Usman off of him. He's still going to have to stop the takedowns, but he's going to have to be more offensive in the clinch and on the fence. He cannot accept those positions. He showed glimpses of good offense on the fence in the first one. I think Jorge's gas tank is not suited for 5 rounds. He will slow down as the fight progresses and the fight will sway towards Usman the longer it goes. Usman is a known wrestler who has been developing his striking. His wrestling and grappling is his main weapon, his bread and butter. He shoots for takedowns and uses the clinch to grind out his opponents. He holds the advantage in the grappling, but he did not have the most success with the takedowns in their first matchup. I don't think he'll abandon the grappling, but I think he'll look for it once his striking starts to fail him. His striking is getting better, no doubt about it, but it still isn't at a level where he can comfortably use it as his main weapon. He still looks a bit stiff when throwing his combinations, but his jab has improved the most. When he switches stances and his dominant hand is forward, his jab is insanely powerful. He has little telegraph and he rarely overextends. One big issue though is his defense. He does keep his hands up, but his primary defense is ducking down on big shots and it leaves him so vulnerable. I think people are assuming the jab will be coming hard, but I have no doubt Masvidal has seen it and he will be looking to counter it. Especially when Usman is unorthodox, he can counter over the top with it. Although he has seen improvements, I still believe Masvidal is the better striker and just flows with his combinations better. I think the gap in striking has gotten smaller, but the gap in grappling has remained the same. I do think they will clash on the feet, but the plot will follow their first fight. Usman is too good at mixing it up, and if Jorge allows him to hold him there, he will not hesitate to keep it there. Jorge's star will still shine bright, just without the belt. The Nigerian Nightmare once again haunts Gamebred. Usman by decision. Alright guys, those are my predictions for the UFC 261 card. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Are there any fighters that you're looking forward to? And don't forget to like and subscribe. And alright guys, as always, let me know what you think and who you got. Take care.